So I've actually talked to one of the two people that are going to be running the dispensary that went through a number of places, Stanford, Bridgeport,
right.
and they couldn't get they weren't allowed to open up a dispensary, and they have managed to at this point gain the opportunity to open a dispensary. Now they're people that have been in the healthcare field for a very long time and seen a lot of people die. Okay, hold on. It's in there somewhere. Hold on. Okay. And they've seen a lot of people that died that could have been helped if they were able to use marijuana as a way to at least alleviate the pain. What's the word you use?
Palliative care.
Care.
Well, it alleviates pain. There's a lot of cancer victims that have, well, I don't know how it is now with chemo, but that in the past, like, they would have no appetite or they would end up throwing up from the chemo. Mm-hmm. So it's something that would actually give them their appetite back.
Exactly.
They're not out, and now with dispensaries, they're not out to like street corners buying it from like the shady guy in the corner.
Right.
It's an actual business that's run by basically the state, but it's a private business, but it ends up being run by the state largely.
Yeah, it's the same way that many businesses are overseen. My business, people have to get a license. Massage therapists have to get a license, and
you need a prescription. I'm assuming you need a prescription to get medical marijuana. So.
I mean, there are some states I've seen that have made it kind of ridiculously simple. Like if you have like a migraine, or if you have some ridiculously small pain, you can get a prescription for medical marijuana. But there are some states, I don't know what the limits here in Connecticut are going to be, but that are more stringent with what you need or have to get before you can get a prescription.
Yeah, I mean, I studied cancer and massage, and they sell, marijuana will help with a pain, has palliative effects. When you don't eat, it can help you get your appetite back. Now it's used for lots of different, it can help a lot of people.
And it's not just joints, like it's also like a lot of places will sell cookies or chips
lollipops.
Or something. Yeah. So
you don't have to actually, you actually don't have to take the smoke in.
There are some people that still do that, but a lot of people will either bake it into something themselves, or they'll buy it baked or something.
Yeah. So you have the same effect, just taken in a different form than through smoke.
I mean, I don't know if it gets to your system quicker that way, but it's just a different way of taking it into your body. Then.
So enough of the boring subject.
Right.
What about this guy that wants to marry his computer because of what's his feeling about why he wants to marry his computer?
There was a case in Florida not that long ago where a guy basically wanted to marry his Apple computer. I should say his Apple computer that was filled with porn. First of all, when he bought the computer, he wanted to sue Apple, and that case ended up getting thrown out because he said it didn't have the required filters built into it that would block out porn. Then he, I guess, somehow magically downloaded porn, and then he got addicted to it, which affected his relationship. He wasn't able to have I guess sex with his wife as well.
Let's tone that down to couldn't have normal relations with his
he
wife.
Make whoopee.
Okay, so
can we say that?
I guess. But now would it have been different if he wanted to marry his Eve computer rather than his Apple computer, or Adam computer, Apple, or Adam's Apple, or whatever?
But basically he wanted to do it, and as a protest against gay marriage, because he had, I guess, some problem with gay marriage, and his theory and what he put in his court documents was, well, gay people can marry and he put it in quotes, object of their sexual attraction. Yeah. So he should be able to marry the object of his sexual attraction, which is his computer. And he kept saying object, like they're marrying like a telephone or something, when they're not marrying another individual.
Well, an individual, in the case of a computer, with a lot of a storehouse of knowledge, certainly, but maybe not
a certain kind of knowledge.
Maybe not the kind of affection, the ability to feel affection that a human being can feel.
Well, there was just a movie called Her with Joaquin Phoenix, and this guy falls in love with a computer server. You know, she wakes him up in the morning, and she's this ever-present presence in his life. It's not a real person, but
sort of like the lady on the GPS that you put the driving instructions in.
So maybe you can develop affection
Put your hands back on the steering wheel and take a left-hand turn at the next intersection.
If you're lonely, you know, and you...
Well, I guess you can get affection from it or gain affection for it, but the law essentially is you need to marry another person.
Right.
But I guess his thought is, well, they want to marry something that's, I guess, against God, or I don't know if he did it religiously, but so he should be able to marry his computer, or somebody, I guess, theoretically should be able to marry a goat or a dog or a telephone.
That's a quick slide down the slippery slope, because the argument against gay marriage was the old slippery slope argument that, if you can marry a person of the same sex, and you can marry 3 people or 5 people or 10 people, or you can marry a goat or a cow or Fido or whomever, and next it'll be your toaster.
Well, I've always said I have a problem with polygamy, but if everybody in the relationship goes into it knowing that that's what it's going to be, like if it's a guy with 4 wives or if it's a woman with 4 husbands, and nobody's being coerced or forced, everybody's of legal age, then it's their decision, and the state shouldn't intervene one way or the other to impose whatever morals or puritanical beliefs they have on it. The same way with gay marriage, because if I don't want my relationships or my marriage or future marriage to be infringed upon, I don't want to infringe upon somebody else's marriage or relationship.
No,
these marriage things, they're all about the law, about keeping people from the days before we had the health insurance plan that we have now. You couldn't get... Well, you missed out on a lot of things if you weren't married to a person of the opposite sex. If they went in the hospital for an illness, you couldn't visit them. You had no say in life decisions.
There was a lot of custody
for that. If they had a job where they had insurance that covered the family, you couldn't be part of that insurance. You couldn't be covered. So, and that was, presumably to the insurance company's benefit, not having to pay to provide coverage for spouses that weren't legally spouses.
Well, I've always used the argument where if when we're done with this show, if I can fly to Vegas, meet a woman on the street that I've never met before in my life, and in a couple of hours I can get a marriage license and I can get married to her, and every state in the union will love it and accept it, I can fly back and within a day I'll be married. But if I was gay and I was with another man for 10, 15, 20 years, there's many states that it would be looked at as wrong, or it would be looked at that I couldn't get married and I would have to be in certain states. And I mean, I'm still against the federal government, I should say, in marriage. But if a state says we don't want it or we want it, that's another bit of a gray area that can get looked at further. But I've always used that argument where if in a day I could get married and 15 years I couldn't get married, there's something wrong there.
Well, you've got a list of stupid laws here, segueing onto something different. I'm going to read a couple of them off. Here's the great state of Alabama, has 8 of them, but I'm only going to read a couple. It is illegal for a driver to be blindfolded while operating a vehicle.
Oh, that's my favorite.
That seems to go without saying. I mean, did that have to be codified as a law?
Well, I guess with a lot of these that you'll probably read, it always strikes me as there's, I guess, somebody that did it, or there's enough people that did it where somebody needed to stand up and say, we need to make this illegal.
Right.
I would assume that it's already legal to be drunk driving, or to be intoxicated, or to be otherwise impaired when you're driving, but we need to codify something completely different to say you can't be blindfolded, which is impaired.
Well, here's one that probably probably the result of our famous horse racing history, where we have the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and then the Belmont Stakes. And of course, the joke goes that bubblegum sticking to the rail, tomato catching up, and Jimmy Durante wins by a nose. And I picked it. Boogers may not be flicked into the wind. That's again Alabama. And now, does these laws all come with a list of range of fines or worse for committing these crimes?
Not really. I mean, I would assume that a lot of them at some point, there are some that served a point to some degree or another, and they were just either never taken off the books, so they're still legally a law. And I guess there's some fines in some of them, but I mean, a lot of them you either can't enforce, or the police aren't going to actively go out and enforce some of them.
They're going to find better things to do with their time.
So the guy who wants to marry his computer, what state was he from?
Florida.
Okay. What do they say about?
I mean, that ended up getting thrown out.
Oh, okay.
And the judge, I think, basically just talked about it being more of a parody than an actual court case, so he just threw it out.
Oh, okay. What else? Other kind of laws do we?
Well, taking it down, micro, reducing it down to not state law or federal law or local law, but to bylaws in neighborhoods. Because a lot of neighborhoods have bylaws, and right here in Connecticut, and I'm sure a lot of folks in the audience know that there are water and beach neighborhoods around Candlewood Lake, one of which is Candlewood Shores, and it's in their bylaws that that you couldn't move into those neighborhoods if you were, let me think now, black or Jewish. There's a bunch of restrictions there
that are
still in their bylaws, because nobody's gone to the trouble. They were obviously washed away by federal civil rights legislation, but they're still there. Nobody's taken the time to remove them from those
I'm sure there's a lot of places
rules.
like that.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
So, or if a minority family wanted to move into, like, they couldn't?
They could not, according to the according to the bylaws of the Candlewood Shores in Brookfield.
At any point, or?
It doesn't need to be, because then there are plenty of families in the neighborhood that fit those descriptions.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, they haven't actively tried to discourage anybody from it.
Not that I know of, but.
Well, it just goes to show how much has changed. Like, we're talking about, people and marriage, whether it's gay marriage or someone now wanting to marry a computer or a dog. I mean, look, up until the 1960s, interracial marriages, we couldn't even
illegal in many states.
Yeah.
Illegal in many states.
Yeah. So and I'm sure even interreligion, different religion. Not that it's illegal to marry, but it's just now.
Probably there are laws on the books in
different countries. There are law. I can't remember the actual country, but there are laws that say you can't marry interfaith or against the faith.
They've got some zany laws in other countries too, no doubt. Not just here in the United States. We're probably one of the sanest nations as far as
we're sane
compared to a lot of countries. Yeah, compared to a lot of countries. I mean, just the notion that the changes that have come in the United States as far as allowing interracial marriage, marrying someone of the same sex legally. And it'll be a cold day in Tanzania before that'll be allowed there.
What's that?
Cold day in Tanzania.
No, but what will be allowed where? I missed it.
Before gay marriage will be allowed.
Oh, in Tanzania?
Tanzania. I'm just picking them up because I think they've got a law that I think it's a crime to
what was it? Ahmadinejad, when he was in front of the UN, he was talking about how there are no gay people in Iran.
Yeah,
that was a couple years ago. Yeah.
None that'll admit it under penalty of law.
Oh, I know.
And what was it in Russia? They were trying to ban, or they were trying to outlaw homosexuality in some way, shape, or form.
Fairly recent, fairly recent. Putin's.
I don't know exactly how they were trying to ban it, but they were in some ways trying to ban it. And I remember seeing an article about gay clubs and gay people in the U.S. were pouring like Russian vodka down the drain, and we're doing all kinds of things. And I'm thinking, like, all right, you've bought the vodka. They're not going to care what you do with it afterwards.
No.
So
who cares?
So you're still giving them money.
It makes sense. Just if you're against a country, just don't buy something that's imported from that country.
Boycott it. Exactly.
Yeah, boycott the product. Yeah. Don't buy it and then throw it. It's like
waste of perfectly good booze.
Yeah. It's like back in the 60s when John Lennon said that the Beatles were more popular than God,
Jesus,
more popular than Jesus. One or the other.
Yeah, God.
And well, it's the same, I guess. But and people were actively going out and breaking and destroying Beatle albums.
And the Dixie Chicks, because they said they didn't like...
Yeah. Same thing, where they said they were embarrassed to be from the same state that George Bush was from.
Well, I remember there's a picture where I think... Well, Bush was born in Connecticut, but there was a picture somewhere in Connecticut where it says something like, "You are now entering Connecticut, the birthplace of George Bush." Then it says something like, "I'm sorry."
He apologized. Oh, yeah. That's on My Left Nutmeg, which is actively... with Al Robinson has a lot to do with that site. He's an active contributor to My Left Nutmeg, which of course has its own little craziness attached to it. But that's the thing that's on the front page of that site. Is, welcome to Connecticut, birthplace of George Bush. We apologize.
No, it's crazy. Some of the things that are just accepted, like things people get away with.
Yeah.
I think, like I've heard in some countries, like someone from Sicily, this was in Italy, he said if a woman's caught cheating on her husband, he has a right to kill her. But I don't know if it's true. Maybe he was just trying to...
That was the plot of a movie.
Probably.
Divorce Italian style, I think it was.
Hey, no.
And I'm sure it had either Gina Lollobrigida
or Marcello Mastroianni.
Or Bridget Bardot, and one or the other, or all of them maybe. But
But then, like, if a man cheats on his wife, it's no big deal.
No big deal.
Well, I think it's somewhere in the Bible where they talk about if a woman's raped, she has to marry the rapist.
Oh, yeah.
Or she should be stoned
to death. Yeah. I'm sure that happens in some countries too.
So they're basically disavowing the notion that it's ever rape.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
a whole other story we can get into.
Crazy.
But I think there's an Arizona preacher. I think it's Arizona. There's an Arizona preacher out there that I remember seeing a video of where he's out talking about like yoga pants or something, and how they're it's inviting men to rape them.
Right.
It's and how rape is something about God's will or some random crap that he's spewing, But he's basically saying how women should be dressing more conservatively, how if you wear yoga pants, you're inviting men to rape you. So you're basically saying all men have no self-control.
Right, exactly.
And the only thing that's giving them self-control is God, basically.
It demeans not just women, but men. You're right. It really does demeans everybody involved in the situation.
And he's basically saying also he has no self-control. Because he's basically saying, well, if it weren't for God, I would be out raping everybody.
With yoga pants.
I guess that's the thought process.
I guess so.
It's like that thought I always hear when Christians, or I don't want to bash on Christians a lot, but when they say, if I wasn't going to believe in God, I would be out
some of them deserve a little bashing.
Beating people, or I would be out attacking people. Religion's the only thing keeping me from, I guess it's the natural selection argument, that the strongest survive and the weakest die off. And I've heard that repeatedly. But it's fascinating to me that you're essentially saying without religion we would all just kill and murder each other. But with religion we've all killed and murdered each other.
That doesn't leave many options, does it? It's kill or kill.
Pretty much.
Two choices. We'd like to kill somebody or just to kill somebody.
Well, no, not to keep talking about Italy, but there was this case where it's a highly Catholic country.
Yeah.
They're very Catholic, and these three young boys had I don't know. Anyway, this girl gets pregnant. They were all like messing around with this girl. She gets pregnant, and she goes, and she says to them, "I'm pregnant," and they kill her. The three of them, I guess, strangle her, and they're interviewing the parents, and they're like, the parents are like, I can't believe this. And they said, why did you do it? And they said, well, we confessed. We admit what we did. We went to church. We confessed. And that was it. Like, I confessed to God. It wipes the slate clean. So religion, I think you're right.
Well, maybe in the eyes of God it wipes the slate clean, but in the eyes of the law it doesn't.
So I think you're right. Religion can.
The rules of the world apply to the world. Render unto God what is God's, and render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So you've got these two sets of laws or commandments, if you will, and following one set doesn't necessarily preclude you from having to follow the other set. You got to answer both directions.
That's what always scares me when you have these like ultra religious, either conservatives or liberals in the government that want to push either one type of a religion or another over another. That's why, not to continue on religion, but I showed a video of, I want to say his last name is Silverman, who is an atheist who went on Bill O'Reilly. Yeah. And he was talking about how he was petitioning in his state to get the cross taken out of the, not the town square, the classroom? No, it was the town hall, or the area in the town hall.
Yeah, public land.
His basic point was it should be all or nothing, basically. So if the town wanted to put up, I don't know what the individual symbols of like Islam are, but if they wanted to put up the Jewish star, something for atheism, blah, 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 then that's fine, or they should just put up nothing.
Yeah. Right.
And it's just, I found it hilarious. You just see Bill O'Reilly get brick red, screaming at him, talking about how
Bill O'Reilly scream? I can't believe it. I can't believe that ever happened.
But the part that I found hilarious was he basically, his position was it's not unconstitutional to put a cross outside because Christianity is not a religion. Christianity is a philosophy.
Never heard that before. Huh.
So in his world, Christianity is not a religion but a philosophy. But apparently, like the Methodists or the Catholics, they're the religion. Mm-hmm. So Christianity in and of itself is a philosophy.
Yeah.
Huh.
At least that's what his argument was.
Well, that's interesting.
Wow.
Now, when a fellow,
that's like saying somebody who's Buddhist, which is philosophical,
which is a philosophy,
a Buddha symbol out.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Buddhism is a philosophy,
not a religion. Yeah.
Like Confucianism.
Or there's a. I forget where this was, but it was, they had made, you remember that episode of Seinfeld where they talked about Festivus?
Oh, of course.
They had put
this Festivus for the rest of us.
They had put a Festivus pole, but they made it out of like Miller Lite beer cans. And they put it in front, like next to like the manger scene in Christmas, or during Christmas time. Yeah. And there was, I forget who one of the 20 blonde-haired women on Fox News. And I'm always amazed that there's like blonde-haired women forever on Fox News.
Right.
But she got all offended.
A lot of the dudes are blonde too.
How can I go and see the manger and I'm seeing this disgusting display and blah blah blah? I just found it hilarious.
It is snarky and it is hilarious and it is.
They want inclusion as long as you agree with them.
Yeah,
but they don't want inclusion if it's something that they don't agree with, or it's anything else. So.
Right. What's Festivus?
It was a made up holiday on an episode of Seinfeld.
Okay.
It was something like George Costanza's father was reaching for some gift or something and got annoyed at people who were beating each other up or something
to buy Christmas presents.
And so he made up this holiday that had absolutely no meaning, and wasn't it something like he had to wrestle him at the end of the show or something like that?
Yeah, that was the airing of the grievances.
And then the feats of strength.
Yep.
So he just made this like weird holiday and he had this Festivus pole, which was basically just a stand and then just a pole. And that's all it was.
That's Seinfeld. That's Seinfeld. There's a lot of fun stuff happened on that show.
But it's true. I mean, you have like Buddhism is a philosophy. I guess Confucianism is a Hinduism. But Christianity is a philosophy. What's the philosophy of Christianity?
I guess in Bill O'Reilly's mind, it's not a religion. Therefore, he can skirt the constitutional amendment where the government can't get into the religion game, or the religion can't force itself into the government game.
Sounds like a lot of trickery to me.
I guess if Christ's beliefs would be in the same way Christ is, just like Buddha was, had his
Well, 90% of religions agree on the main tenets, like be nice to other people, don't hurt other people.
The Ten Commandments.
They all have their basic
90. I will say, I'm not going to say all religions are the same, but they all believe in kind of the same basic tenets.
Right, yeah.
But then there's all this kind of infighting that people have where they say, no, my religion's better than yours, or or this group of Christians think their Christianity is better than this other group of Christians. So
crazy, just crazy.
Well, they say the Torah, the first. Oh, I can't think right now. The
Old
Quran,
Testament.
Old Testament. They're all basically like the same. Before they branch out.
Well, what is it? Muslims revere Christ as a prophet.
A great prophet, and likewise the Jews recognize that Jesus Christ. Well, they recognize Jesus as being a great prophet, just not the Son of God, and likewise Islam.
There are some Jews that do recognize him as the Son of God.
Yeah,
but I
think Bob Dylan fit that category during one of his 40 different stages of religious changing. Okay, thanks.
Jewish carpenter boy.
Yeah, but during harkening back to 2000, one of the debates between George Bush and Al Gore, the question was asked of George Bush, who was your favorite philosopher, and he said, Jesus Christ is my favorite philosopher, and that touched me in a way because it seemed like he was kind of reaching out to other faiths that do consider Jesus a great philosopher, just not the Son of God. And I found that to be, of course, all the stuff that happened later with George W. Bush.
Well, I was going to say,
kind of counteracted that, unfortunately. But
I find it hilarious where he was talking about how he reads the Bible a lot, he believes in Christianity, but then he's going to sign orders to attack another nation that has never assaulted us. He's going to start many wars. He's going to lock people in Guantanamo without any kind of a trial, and many of them are still there. Right. I don't know how we got here from stupid laws, but
stupid, not stupid pet tricks, but stupid actions by government. And at that, here we go again. We have to say goodbye.
Goodbye
to the folks at the next table and everybody else out there. And this has been Progressive Soup. I'm David Stevenson, and I have with me co-host Emily Volpintesta and guest Michael Tuohey. What time is your show on, Michael?
9 on Fridays and 1 on Wednesdays.
9 on Fridays, right before Basil Budicat presents at 10 o'clock. And Wednesday also. What time Wednesday?
1.
1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yep.
Okay. And
just never turn off.